This is a true account. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Some humans believe rules don't matter. When they break free of rules, they become darker, hungrier, almost demonic. I know. I lived with one. His name was Diddy. He told me I was adopted, told me I was special, but really all he wanted was me to perform. When it was my turn, I'd go blank, no memory, just silence. Then I'd wake up tucked into bed like nothing happened. But when I stopped trying to remember and just drew, blindfolded with my eyes shut, that's when I finally saw what should never be seen. They told me I was adopted. No documents, no last name, just a room, an address, and total silence. I don't recall arriving, only waking up. The room was white, pristine, with nothing soft. No rugs, no pillows, just a bed, one light overhead, and a rule taped on the door. Knock 3 times, always 3. That was the only instruction I got. First night I needed the bathroom, I did exactly that. 3 knocks, no more, no less. A woman in white showed up. She didn't speak, just stared at me, then walked down the hall. I followed. That's how it always played out. They never used words, not with me. No mirrors anywhere, not in halls, not in bedrooms, nowhere. It didn't sink in until weeks later, but I hadn't seen my own face since I got there. At night, I'd press my hands to the window, hoping for a peek of my reflection, but it was always too dark, too distant, like my face didn't exist anymore. There was a painting in the hallway I walked past each morning for lessons. A girl in a white dress facing away. Her posture was familiar, stiff, held. At some point, I noticed maybe it was me. The women around wore no names, all in white, no buttons, no shoes, no jewelry. They moved soundlessly, like ghosts in fabric. One would place folded clothes at my bed before dawn. I never saw her, only felt footsteps press into the floor when I woke. Air smelled of lemon and metal. It wasn't a home or even a house. It felt like a stage, a set meant to look caring, but stripped of anything human. No pictures, no clocks, no calendars. On every door, a camera, red lights blinking when you passed, almost like counting. Only sounds, the hum of lights, and sometimes his voice from deep inside walls. Smooth, familiar, controlling. He'd whisper, "Obedience is legacy. You were chosen because you are silent." Sometimes I'd hear crying from the room next door, then silence, then slow clapping. It took weeks to realize the clapping wasn't praise. It was a cue for someone to stop, for someone to vanish. And every morning the house stayed exactly the same, like no one ever lived there, like no one ever left. The first time I saw him was at dinner. They dressed me in white, same as the others, but mine didn't fit right, like it had been tailored for someone who never showed up. The sleeves hung too long, and the collar scratched. No one helped me fix it. I don't think they were allowed to. The dining room was cold, not from temperature, from tone. A long, pristine table stretched under a chandelier that looked like it hadn't been dusted in years. Golden plates, silver utensils, cloth napkins folded into perfect shapes. I was too afraid to unfold. And there he was, Diddy. He sat at the head of the table, dressed in all black. No chains, no sunglasses, just him. Real and unreal at the same time. He didn't look up when I walked in. Didn't smile, just raised his hand slightly like a signal. One of the women pulled the chair beside him out for me. I sat to his right. The others were already in place. 5 of them, all women, all in white, perfect posture, faces still. No one said a word. The food had already been served: salmon, cold, as if it had been waiting for me to arrive, or maybe it was always cold. Maybe it was meant to be. I looked down at my plate hands in my lap, waiting for someone, anyone, to tell me what to do. That's when I heard it, eat. His voice wasn't loud, it didn't have to be. It came out measured, deliberate, like he was testing the shape of the word before letting it land. I didn't move. The fork looked wrong, too polished, too heavy, like it had been dipped in something that didn't want to be touched. My hand hovered above it, but didn't reach. Eat, he said again. Softer, not kinder, just slower. Still, I didn't move. The silence stretched. Then, on cue, one of the women to my left lifted her fork, took a bite mechanical. No chewing, just movement. Then another, like a machine, warming up one gear at a time. Still, I sat still. He turned to me, finally, and smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It wasn't even a human one. It was the kind of smile people practice in a mirror when they think no one's watching too exact, too. Then he leaned toward me and whispered, "Good girl." That was it, 2 words. And suddenly, the table felt colder, like the words had pressed themselves into the silverware. The others didn't react, they just kept chewing. That night, I didn't eat. No one punished me. No one took away my food, but the next morning, the chair in my room was gone. The window too, not covered, gone. Just a white wall where it used to be. When I asked the woman in white if there had ever been a window, she didn't answer, just handed me a new dress slightly smaller, better fitted, like the house had adjusted itself to me. Later, I learned the truth about dinner. It wasn't a meal, it was an audition, and silence was the performance. Weeks passed, or maybe more. There were no clocks, no calendars, only routines. Wake, dress, walk, sit, wait. Sometimes we'd pass each other in the halls, girls like me, silent, distant, floating in identical white. We never spoke, not because we didn't want to, but because we weren't sure if we were allowed to. But there were glances, the kind that held questions, without asking them, the kind that only people with shared silence could understand. There was one girl older than me, or maybe just more tired. I sat next to her during a posture session, back straight, hands folded, faces blank. When the instructor left the room, I whispered, "What's the performance like?" Her eyes didn't move, only her lips, barely. "Don't know. You don't remember. None of us do." I waited. We all black out right before it begins. Wake up in our beds the next morning always. She looked ahead again, like the whisper had been expensive. Later that day, I asked another girl in the corridor while we reset the chairs. Silence. Same answer. I walked into the room, red light hit, and then nothing. Just woke up like it never happened. I heard the same story 5 times in 5 ways, different girls, same emptiness. I started keeping track of who had already gone. There were 12 of us in total. 11 had already performed. That left me the last one. The house seemed to know it too. I could feel it in the way the halls shifted. When I walked them, like the walls were listening, like the air changed its shape when I exhaled. One morning, there was a note left under my tray, not handwritten, typed. "You will be called soon. Prepare yourself." No name, no signature, just like that. Every room felt colder, every shadow darker. Every time I saw Diddy in the hallway, he wasn't walking, he was watching, smiling that same rehearsed smile, the one that didn't quite touch his eyes. Sometimes I wondered if he knew we didn't remember. Sometimes I wondered if that was the point, not to forget, but to not be able to remember. And I started asking myself something I couldn't shake. If none of them remember what happens during the performance, then who is it for? They said the therapy was for us to help us adjust to integrate. Every girl had her session once a week in the East Wing. They called it support. It felt more like surveillance. My therapist's name was Dr. Leon. She wore pastel suits and soft perfume. The room smelled like lavender and printer ink. One couch, one clock, one small window sealed shut. The light was always too warm, always artificial. She greeted me with a smile like we'd known each other for years, so she said, crossing her legs gently. "How are you adjusting to your new home?" I told her the truth. "It doesn't feel like a home, it feels like a set." She blinked at that, clicked her pen once before writing something I couldn't see. I kept going. "The walls are too clean. The people don't talk. There are no mirrors anywhere." She smiled softly again. "That can be normal. Many adopted children struggle with reflection, especially when coming from very little into this level of abundance." She said it like she was trying to be gentle, but there was nothing gentle about this place. "The other girls," I said, "they don't remember things. Whole days just gone." Her pen paused. "And do you have trouble remembering?" I shook my head. "Not yet. My name hasn't been called." That made her tilt her head. "Called for what?" "The performance." She repeated the word like she was tasting it for the first time. "Yes, they go into the red room one by one when it's their turn. They black out, wake up the next morning like it never happened." She was quiet too long. "They don't remember what happened, but they all come back different. And I'm the last one. I haven't gone yet." She tried to mask it, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Recognition, or maybe fear. She tucked her pen behind her ear. "Sometimes, in structured environments, children will process discipline or order as performance. It's not uncommon, especially when the home is high profile and highly surveilled." I didn't answer. She leaned forward slightly, her voice softened. "It's okay if you're nervous. That's normal. You're being cared for, now seen valued." She said the word valued, like it meant owned. I stood up when the session ended. She didn't shake my hand, just nodded. But when I turned toward the door, I felt it not dread, not fear preparation. Like she wasn't helping me cope, she was helping me rehearse. They called it the Red Room. Never out loud, never in front of Diddy, but I heard the name whispered once behind a hallway door that didn't close all the way. A woman in white voice, low and trembling. "She's next. The Red Room's ready." They didn't say it like it was a place. They said it like it was alive. The day my turn came, there was no warning. No knock. Just a woman standing at my doorway at dawn, holding out a folded white ribbon. The same one every girl wore before they disappeared for the night and reappeared hollow the next morning. No one told me where to go. I already knew. The hallway was narrower than I remembered, or maybe the walls were moving, closing in, like the way sound does when you're underwater. No photos, no music, just that red pulse in the distance, not blinking, breathing. The door was already open when I got there. A chair waited under a red spotlight, nothing else. No stage, no platform, just a single chair and air that felt heavy, thick, like syrup, like it had been exhaled by something old and bored and still hungry. I didn't sit, not yet. On the other side of the room, behind a glass wall, I saw him, Diddy. He was seated, legs crossed, elbows on the armrest, staring through the glass like it was a screen, and I was the next episode. He wore black again, always black, but this time his face wasn't smiling. It was interested, studying. And then I saw what stood behind him, not a person, not exactly. A shape tall, still not breathing, not blinking. A shadow that didn't match the room's light. Its head tilted like it had been carved that way. And its eyes, if they were eyes, glowed dully like embers that had never cooled. And the worst part? It was smiling, not at Diddy, at me. I stepped forward, not because I wanted to, because my legs moved the way they'd been trained to obey cues I hadn't even noticed. The moment I sat in the chair, the red light above me pulsed brighter. The door behind me sealed shut with a hiss. The air got colder. I looked toward the glass. Diddy didn't move. Neither did the figure behind him. But I felt something change, like a hand on the back of my skull, not touching, just hovering ready. And then a sound, 3 tones low, mechanical, familiar. We'd heard them in lessons, but they were never explained. Then silence. My fingers began to twitch. My breathing got shallow. My thoughts started skipping like stones over black water. I wanted to speak, scream, move, but I couldn't. The red light dimmed, and that's the last thing I remember. When I woke up, I was in my bed dressed, hair combed like nothing had happened, except something had. I checked my arms, my feet, my skin, no bruises, no marks, but something inside me had shifted, like a memory that wasn't mine had been buried just under the surface. I walked past the other girls that morning. No one looked at me, but I felt it. They knew. They recognized something in me now, the kind of stillness that doesn't come from practice, the kind that comes from forgetting something too big to carry. And I knew one thing with absolute clarity. Whatever happened in that room, it wasn't me who performed. It was something else. Something I had been trained to make room for. After the performance, things didn't go back to normal. Not because anyone treated me differently, but because they didn't. The same folded dress on my bed, the same schedule, the same hallway silence. But I felt different, like there was an echo inside me now, a room I couldn't find but still heard knocking from. I didn't remember what happened. Not exactly, but I started drawing again. It came naturally like breathing used to. At first, I sketched my bed, my hallway, the red room, at least what I thought it looked like. But then, my hands started moving without asking, shapes I didn't plan, hallways I'd never seen, symbols that looked like spirals turned inside out. I didn't remember drawing them, but there they were. One night, I sat by the edge of the bed and closed my eyes. I held the pencil loose between my fingers, let it move. I don't know how long I sat like that. Time didn't feel real in that place. When I finally opened my eyes and looked down at the paper, I froze. It was a face, not Diddy's, the other one, the thing behind him. No eyes, just indentations. Skin stretched too tight, mouth too wide. Smiling, not happy, but proud. Like I had drawn it correctly. I dropped the pencil. My hands were shaking. From then on, I could only draw it with my eyes closed. If I looked while sketching, the lines would vanish or change or twist into something wrong. But if I shut my eyes and let the memory lead, the figure came through clearer every time. Then one night, I opened my eyes mid-sketch, and they were both standing there, Diddy and the thing. He stood in the doorway of my room like he belonged there, dressed in black again. No expression, no words, but beside him, the demon. Not a hallucination, not a drawing. Real, tall, still. Grinning like it knew I had remembered something I wasn't supposed to. My sketchbook fell off my lap. The drawing stopped midline. That's when I knew whatever lived behind that glass in the red room, it hadn't just watched me perform. It had stayed with me, inside me, or around me. I didn't know the difference anymore. I ran, no plan, no destination, just instinct. Down the hall, past the painting of the girl with her back turned, through the hallway that always smelled like metal and lemon. No one tried to stop me, not the women in white, not security, not even him, like they didn't care, or like they didn't need to. I kept waiting for someone to grab me a hand on my shoulder, an alarm, a voice in the dark telling me to turn around. But nothing happened. I ran barefoot down the service hallway, turned corners I had never been allowed to turn, past doors that had always been locked and not a single one opened. No one yelled, no one followed. It was like the house didn't even notice I was gone. Or maybe it did and didn't care. The gates weren't even closed. They opened with a soft mechanical hum, like they'd been waiting for me. Past them silence, no guards, no lights, just a gravel path that led down toward the tree line. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because if I did, I was afraid I'd see him standing there, Diddy, smiling that same impossible smile, or worse, the thing beside him. I walked until my legs gave out, collapsed into some stranger's backyard, and lay beneath a patio table until morning. When someone found me, I gave a name that wasn't mine. I didn't know if I even had one anymore. The one I came in with didn't fit. The one they gave me felt hollow, like it was assigned to an empty room. No ID, no paperwork, just one object in my hand, my sketchbook. They tried to take it at the hospital. I didn't let go, not for a second. They gave up, eventually. That was the first time someone looked at me like I was a person and not a problem. A nurse asked me where I came from. I said I didn't know, which was mostly true. No one came looking for me. No one filed a report. No security footage ever surfaced. No missing persons alert. Nothing. I watched the news for weeks, waiting for a headline. Nothing. It was like I had never existed. And part of me wondered if that was always the plan, that I was never meant to be a person in that place. Just a phase, just a variable, just rehearsal. I kept drawing not as often, and never with my eyes closed. I couldn't risk it, but I kept the sketchbook hidden, wrapped in a plastic bag, inside a shoebox buried under blankets in the back of a closet. I tried to live like a normal person. Grocery stores, late-night TV, watching cars from a city bus window. But sometimes I'd see a flash of black in a crowd, or feel that same stillness in my room at night, like someone or something was waiting for the light to turn red again. And every time I looked at my sketchbook, I knew I had brought part of the house with me. I didn't believe it at first. The headline blinked on the screen of a gas station TV right above a row of expired snacks. Sean Diddy Combs under federal investigation. I froze, not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. The story was everywhere after that. News anchors, podcasts, YouTube commentators, all piecing together the fragments, allegations, civil suits, witnesses that came forward and then disappeared. But no one mentioned the house, not the red room, not the girls, not what we were trained to forget. I think part of me knew they wouldn't, because no one forgets like we were made to forget. I didn't come forward right away. I waited, watched, listened, until one day I saw something strange during a court segment. A sketch shown in a slideshow of unrelated evidence. A girl in white, eyes blank, back turned. It wasn't mine, but it looked like mine. Like someone else had remembered too. I haven't testified, not yet, but I will. They say Diddy's finally being investigated. Whispers turning into subpoenas. Footage, names, payments, everything starting to unravel. But they haven't called me, not officially. Not yet. Still, I know it's coming. I feel it in my spine. The way I used to feel the red lights hum from inside the walls. That low, bone, deep vibration that told you something was watching, recording, remembering. Only now it's me. I'm the one remembering. They don't know who I am, not really. They have fragments, leaked files, non-disclosure contracts signed under shell companies, whispers from handlers trying to distance themselves, girls with broken timelines. But they don't have the whole story, not until I bring them the sketchbook, not until I speak. I keep it close now, closer than ever. The book is worn around the edges. The pages curl from years of hiding. Some drawings are smudged, some bleed through, but the faces are still there. his and the one behind him. The smile hasn't faded. I think about the other girls sometimes, the ones who blacked out, the ones who don't draw. I wonder if they still feel it, that tension, that silence, that quiet that vibrates under your fingernails, the kind of quiet that means something's listening. I wonder if they'll remember if I do. When they finally call me in, I won't hesitate. I already know how it will go. They'll say my name. Maybe it won't even feel like mine. They'll ask me to enter the courtroom, and before I open the door, I'll knock 3 times, just like they taught us. Not because I'm scared, not because I want permission, because I want him to hear it, because I want Diddy, wherever they're keeping him, in whatever white-walled chamber they've built for men like him, to hear those knocks and remember what he created, what he rehearsed, what he tried to erase. And before he sees my face, he'll know exactly who's coming. Not the adopted daughter, not the variable, not the silence, me. And this time, when I take the stage, it's not going to be his performance, it's going to be mine.